All right, we're live. Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast. Today we have Terry and Gary and Fireman Calvin. How's
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us, Calvin. We are a little late, little technical difficulties. We're glad you were able to join us. Now, are you at the fire station right now?
Yes, we're at the fire station.
Nice, nice. Now, what are some of the shifts that you guys have to pull? Don't you have to pull like a couple days straight, and you guys have to stay at the fire department?
Monroe Township Fire Department is a paid-on-call volunteer department.
Okay.
Everybody is on pager call.
Okay.
We don't have currently we don't have any shift work personnel.
Okay.
So when somebody calls 911 and they report an emergency, the guys scramble from wherever they are, whether they're residents or if they're at the grocery store or if they're down at dinner. The pagers go off. We scramble. We have 3 stations in the township that we can deploy equipment. Mm-hmm. So it's a paid-on-call volunteer system.
Okay. Now, you said pager. Why haven't you guys upgraded to flip phones yet? No, I'm kidding. I know the pagers work. I had to say that.
Well, but it's not a pager it's not a numeric pager. This
okay.
is a Motorola radio,
okay.
And 911 pushes the buttons to activate them, and it's a voice over.
Okay, you didn't have to get hot, Calvin. He came at me and schooled me, Gary. Hey, Gary, are you sure?
Bad joke.
What's that?
The bad joke he should have got after you.
Right. Calvin's going to come over here and write me up for everything I'm doing wrong over here.
I had a flip phone for a long time.
Did you? Yeah. Hey, yeah. You know what? I look at people with flip phones and I tell them they're doing the right thing. They're not getting bombarded by all this stuff. When the iPhones are nice and touchscreens are nice, but at the end of the day, man, you're just bombarded by a lot of nonsense. So, yeah. Hey, Gary, are you sharing this on Facebook and stuff?
Oh, I gotta do that?
Yeah, come on, Gary. You're the tech guy.
Yeah, we're sharing.
I mean, other than you did share it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me share it. You got some questions to ask, Calvin?
Yeah. What made you want to come on and talk to Terry?
Well, when it comes to public relations, that's one of my responsibilities, along with code enforcement and site plan review and building inspections and fire prevention. Fire prevention is something that I literally have taught tens of thousands of elementary school kids and senior citizens. Well, as you know, our day-to-day responsibilities have changed. We're not out interacting with our community. Our open house this year has been canceled, and a lot of events have been canceled. So this is just a new way of reaching our community.
Yeah, and you've said that you're actually missing an event here coming up too. What's the event that you guys are missing here coming up?
Well, there's a restaurant. It's called Joy's Home Cooking. She's on West Front Street here in Monroe, corner of Front and Cooper. And she contacted me about wanting to do an event and raising money for the University of Michigan burn camp.
Okay.
The burn camp has ability to work with children that have been injured from fire. They can go for a period of time and be around other children with the same injuries. People that aren't staring at them. They can be kids. They can relax. They can have fun. Well, unfortunately, there's a dollar figure with everything we do, right? So the event is going to be Thursday, October 1st at Joy's Home Cooking, 1125 West Front Street.
And that's in Monroe, Michigan, correct?
Monroe, Michigan.
Okay.
What they do is they make hand-carved sandwiches. They have soup every day, and then they have an entree. So the entree is going to be a turkey dinner with all the trimmings. It's going to be $9.95, and 20% of the proceeds that day, anything on the menu, she's going to donate towards the burn camp through the Monroe County Firefighters Association, so that we can help fund that cost, offset some of that cost for the families that want to send their children to camp.
Now, is there a number that you guys got to reach, or can people go in and donate right there? Say if they want to pick up something, or if they're just driving by, there's okay, so they can
going to have it
right
from
there.
11 to 6
Okay.
p.m. on October 1st. Joy does ask that you would pre-order your meals because she doesn't know if she needs to cook 2 turkeys or cook 10 turkeys, right?
Right.
Or are you going, Terry? Because they might need about 11 or 12 turkeys.
I was just gonna say I'm already on the horn making my order right now.
Everything that I have, been introduced to through her kitchen is amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's one local business that wants to help. So the City of Monroe Fire Department and Monroe Township Fire Department are helping her advocate this and get the word out and help raise some money for the kids' burn camp.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know when we spoke the other day, I'm also a member of the Michigan Fire Inspectors Society, who help orchestrate and have influence on writing of fire codes. And they're reporting in 2020, so far this year, out of 72 fires, there have been 92 fire deaths. And that's just in the state of Michigan, correct? State of Michigan, correct. Right. Where 92 people have lost their life due to a fire-related injuries. And, we just try to work every day to bring those numbers down if we can. Right. And I know we had discussed smoke detectors. Yeah. And actually, today I still find smoke detectors that are disabled, that don't have good working batteries in them, or homes that don't have smoke detectors at all. You raised your hand. Would you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you do in the case of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors is the big thing, because we've had an incident here at our house before, and it went off, and it was the middle of the night, so I went downstairs and I just tore it out of the wall and went back to sleep. But I'm sure that's not what you suggest. What do you suggest when something happens like that?
In a single family residence, the fire department has very little authority when it comes to those smoke detectors. At the time the home was built, in new construction, they have to be hardwired. They have to be in every sleeping area. But for them to maintain them, the fire department has very little authority. You get into commercial buildings or multiple dwellings, now you're looking at the safety of the other residents in the building. Right. Hotels, motels. It's actually a misdemeanor fire code violation to tamper with or disable any fire safety equipment. Right. Now, a lot of people, they say when a smoke detector is hardwired in, and we'll get into it a little bit later on. That's one of the reasons why we had you on here. And if you see at the bottom, it says hit the tip jar, and that's to donate in for smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, because Gary and I we'll get into that a little bit later. But we want to buy smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and give them to fire departments to pass out to the community. But now, we got talking about that, but when you hardwire a smoke detector in and the power goes out, what's the chance? Is there a backup reserve for so many? Battery backup in the smoke detector itself. Okay. And now with that battery backup, does that battery have to be changed so often, or no? It's just okay. Yes. So it's not a rechargeable battery. Okay. So that has to be changed the same amount of, as many times. Usually it's the spring forward and fall behind when you change the times. You always want to put a new battery in. That's a good reminder of the time of year that most everyone changes the clocks on their remotes, on the TV, and the VCR on your watch. It's just a good time of year to remember to keep good working fresh batteries in your smoke detectors. Correct. And you don't, for the people that like to recycle and use and all that stuff, you don't necessarily have to throw that battery out. If you change it twice a year,
that battery may still be good, but you avoid that 2 o'clock in the morning where the smoke detector's beeping and you go and rip it out of the wall, right?
And sometimes we get a response on that, where they don't know why it's chirping, and they'll call 911, and we go out and we help our citizens that need help installing smoke detectors or changing the batteries.
Now, what do you recommend? I know some cities have codes, and township has codes like it has to be in one has to be in every sleeping, like a bedroom, and then one has to be, I think, in the front room. What's the code? The normal code? Is there a state code? Is there city codes, township codes?
We operate under the International Fire Code,
and that is
we're under the International Building Code, and that's what the state uses too, is the IFC.
Okay.
And the wording actually is any sleeping area.
Okay.
Because one thing we've seen through recession is families start to come together, and you may have basement bedrooms, you may have other bedrooms, sleep areas that need smoke detectors put in. Right. So if they're occupying something other than just a bedroom, they should have smoke detectors.
Right. So like if people are in the basement, sleeping in the basement and all that stuff, and whether it's a room or just the open basement, okay, so they should have any sleeping area.
We see more and more families joining together and sharing these living spaces.
So don't put the stove, Terry.
And
what's that?
Don't put one over the stove, Terry.
No, they don't recommend the kitchen because of the steam.
Yeah, it's always going on.
I have had some children tell me that when mom is cooking and the smoke detector goes off, it means it's time to eat. It's like calling them to dinner.
Right.
That's how good it's going to be.
Yeah, that's how it is in my house, and I'm the only one cooking.
and of course, Gary, you had talked about a carbon monoxide detector.
Right.
With homes being built more energy efficient and trying to seal them up to where they conserve energy, there's not as much natural ventilation to a home. And if you have a pinhole, a rust hole, a crack in your heat exchanger of your furnace, you could have raw carbon monoxide coming right through your heat vents.
Yeah.
And
what do you
water heaters that have downdrafting, if the wind is blowing outside and your water heater stack is not installed correctly, you could actually get downdrafting where that carbon monoxide is filling the occupied space. And you can't taste it, you can't see it, you can't smell it.
Is there certain places you suggest to put those carbon monoxide detectors?
The recommendations are within 15 feet of where you sleep. So in the hallway, they recommend not putting them next to the furnace, not next to the water heater, because you could get periodic false positives. You could get an activation that may not be a hazard. I know that most carbon monoxide detectors are set to go off at 35 parts per million. That just means that's a reading that it has gotten, and at 35 parts per million, it activates. If it goes above 50 parts per million, it's recommended that you evacuate the home.
Okay.
So if somebody is going to buy a carbon monoxide detector, I recommend they purchase the style that has the LED digital readout on it. So when you look at that, you can see what the levels are. Okay.
Right.
Because you can have high levels exposed in a short amount of time, or you can have low levels exposed to a long period of time. That can make you very ill.
Now, if you have, actually that happened to me, my furnace at my old house in Dearborn, it started leaking, and, it was probably 20 years old when I moved in, and I mean, I pushed it to like 26, almost 30 years,
Wow.
the furnace, and, I'd have it inspected every year, and my carbon monoxide detector started going off, and it was in the basement. It was far enough away, and I ended up calling my buddy, and I slept upstairs. So he just said, turn the heat down a little bit. And, it was right before Christmas, and they came out and they checked it, and it was leaking. But it wasn't a heavy leak, but they ended up changing it. And, I put in a new furnace and everything. But yeah, if I would have just ignored it, and if I didn't have a carbon monoxide detector, through, and that was,
You might
early
have
on.
slept through the whole event.
Yeah, and it would have gotten worse, so opposed to getting any better, and I mean, it would have, things could be different.
Unfortunately, the signs and symptoms mimic so many other
Right.
illnesses that we have: the headache,
Right.
nausea, vomiting,
Mhm.
discoloration, the redness of the skin.
Yeah. And that's just when you spend 3 hours with Gary, those symptoms. I'm just kidding.
If you feel better when you leave the home and then feel ill when you return to home,
Right.
your fire department will come out and we will do an air quality analysis with our detector. And then if we get a reading, then we would notify the gas company, and they have more expensive and more sensitive equipment that can read even finer particles. And then it would be up to the homeowner then, if it gets red tagged, to get a hold of a service company to repair the furnace, water heater, the fireplace, whatever the issue would be.
Now, these tankless heaters, now can they spit out carbon monoxide too, or?
I believe the tankless heaters are electric.
Okay.
Electric does not produce carbon monoxide.
Well, what about if they have a gas line going to them?
I don't know if they make a tankless heater with a gas burner.
Oh, okay.
I've not seen that. Everyone I have seen out in the field have been electric.
Okay.
So a gas water heater can produce carbon monoxide. An electric water heater does not.
Correct.
A gas stove will, but an electric stove will not.
Right.
What do you suggest if the carbon monoxide detector goes off? My wife reminded me that a few years ago it happened to our house, and we called the fire department, and they decided it was no leak. It was just like my son had his car started in the garage, and it got close enough to the heater to put it off. But what's the steps? I mean, as soon as somebody hears the alarm, do they automatically call the fire department, get out of the house? Or what do you suggest?
You want to leave the area. You want to get the fresh air. And then when the fire department gets there, we try to reduplicate the situation. Downdrafting that I mentioned earlier, that's where the wind is blowing and it's coming down your stovepipe.
Yeah.
That is very difficult to recreate because we can't control the wind, obviously. But we look at every appliance and try to determine if it's operating and burning cleanly. Furnace repairmen have told me if you have a bright blue crisp flame, that it's burning complete fuel. It's still producing carbon monoxide, but it's burning clean. If you have a yellow lazy flame and it's not going up the exhaust, most of the time you have a burner that's dirty or rusty, or and it's not burning all the fuel completely. Okay. So that's something you want to look at through your inspection hole to see what the flame looks like. A nice blue crisp flame is burning the most efficient that it can.
Okay.
But any crack, any pinhole, any rust, the stovepipe could be dislodged. We had an elderly couple that did not survive from a carbon monoxide poisoning, and the stovepipe in the basement had rusted through. So we were getting pure carbon monoxide in the home, and they didn't have a detector.
Now, you mentioned before there were some incidents in the area that people there were no smoke detectors in their house. And do you find that common? A lot of people, and I'm guilty of taking out the battery at 2:00 in the morning, and the next day rolls around and you forget to put it in, or you don't have any batteries, and and it's such an easy mistake to make. But because you always think, it can't happen to me. I've even went to the point where I'll put a smoke detector in a boat if I'm sleeping, so, and you really don't think about that until a boat next to you catches on fire and it was electrical, and it's just one of those things. And, so, I mean, it's very important, but do you notice that a lot? And have you heard stories like that through colleagues and stuff, as far as, people, if they would have had a smoke detector, they probably may have not perished in a fire?
Well, the last two fatal fires that I've investigated, one was out in Bolts Harbor. The other one was over in it was on Patterson Drive here in Monroe, and they were two young male adults that both were found within 10 feet of an exterior door.
Oh.
There were no working smoke detectors in that house, and by installing a $10 smoke detector greatly increases your chances of survival.
Yeah.
It's early detection. The only thing better than early detection is early suppression if you have a sprinkler system.
Right.
I mean, for watering your lawn.
Right.
A fire safety sprinkler system in the building.
Right.
And without having good working smoke detectors, people say they'll smell the smoke and they'll wake up, but it actually puts you into a deeper sleep.
Yeah.
There have been incidents where the family pet has come and woke up the occupants.
Yeah.
The dogs are more sensitive and aware of what's going on. But another style of smoke detector are the ones with the lithium batteries in them. It's a 10-year. You don't have to change your smoke detectors every 6 months. At the end of its life cycle, you take that unit out and you recycle it, and you can put up another lithium battery. Smoke detector. They're about $25.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And they have wireless smoke detectors now that maybe you have an older home and you can't do hardwired throughout your residence, but you want to have something to notify all occupants. They make wireless where you connect them into a power supply and they work on a shortwave radio signal that would activate all the smoke detectors. If one activates, they all activate.
Nice.
They have those. They have those available through Lowe's and Menards and all your big box stores. You can purchase those.
All right. Now, actually, when you came down to, it's funny because when you came down, I came home and I seen your business card in my door, and it's like, oh God, what did I do now? So
when we met face to face, he put some of them wrestling moves on me. It pinned me down on the ground.
I'm like, you're not gonna find me. I got a buddy Gary, he'll help me. And then you suplex me on my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. What did I do wrong? But no, we were talking about how to get into the gate here at the marina, and in case there's correct. And I got thinking, we were talking, and I got thinking about smoke detectors, and I'm guilty of taking out the batteries or not keeping up on the batteries and changing them. And that's when I would talk to Gary about, maybe we should do something, collect money, and 100% of all the donations go to buy smoke detectors. We'll try to work with whether it's Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's and try to get
locally. What they've done is they have sold them to me at cost. What they tell me is at cost.
Yeah.
And, here's the money, give it to you.
One of the store managers were very helpful with that.
Right.
Currently, the American Red Cross has a smoke detector program. I've probably made a dozen referrals because my donations have run out. I don't have a smoke detector in my office to give to anyone due to cost. And the American Red Cross, you call them, and they will send a crew out and they will install them for you. They don't want you to leave them on the counter, up on a shelf, or in a drawer.
Right.
If they're going to bring you a smoke detector, they want to make sure it's up and functioning.
Exactly. And that's one of the things is because, you guys are on a limited budget and stuff like that. And we want to prevent, and we've already had some donations, but I'm going to hit up, a lot of people that I know in wrestling, and they're very charitable. The McMahons are very charitable. The Carter family, and get them to donate and get smoke detectors not only to you guys but to other fire departments. We'll start out locally and then spread out from there and go to communities.
And if they're looking for whatever tax deduction the government would allow, I know I can't deduct anything off my property taxes anymore, but if it's a charitable, our association has that CPO3 or whatever that number is.
So that's way we could probably
tax ID.
Donate to you guys. That way it's tax deductible and stuff like that. But it's and a lot of people, I've gotten a good response when I told them we are going to start that. And Gary, he's got a lot of connections too,
I think
especially
he's got a lot of money.
What's
Yeah.
that?
He'd
I
be
thought you
lying.
were saying Gary's got a lot of money.
Hey, Gary does, Calvin. He's a Ford employee. He's a darn good one too.
Darn
Always
good.
working. He's working overtime. Yeah. So we're definitely going to hit Gary up for big money.
Yeah. Well, that would be awesome. But everything we can do to try to keep those fire deaths down.
Right. If we just save one life, it's well worth it.
Absolutely.
What do you think the percentage of households in Monroe County that don't have fire alarms or smoke detectors, or you think it's rampant as far as like people not actually having them in their homes?
I think in our older communities that there are a lot of people that have become distant from replacing and installing, and even when I do have smoke detectors available, even the landlords are supposed to keep them functioning and in place, but landlords tell me that their tenants take them down, and it's difficult to keep up with.
No,
because I don't have that authority. I can't just go into somebody's home.
Right.
Another big question I know Terry had was he wanted to know how to get into the next fireman's calendar for Monroe. I mean, is that like
I'm wearing my red shirt? It's actually the Detroit News shirt. I don't know if you can see it.
And what size shirt do you wear? Is that like 3X?
That's a 3X. Yeah, but it's my Detroit News.
So we need to get you a fireman shirt so that
you
can rip it off when you enter the ring or something.
Right. So I figure I'd wear my red shirt. Gary and I, we would like December. Okay, don't let Gary pawn it off just on me. We're talking about it. I mean, all right, we'll get into some real good stuff. Now, a lot of women, I noticed they have a fetish for firemen. Have you heard that, or has and I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble with their wives, but I thought wrestlers, we had some female fans, but I see firefighters, they have a lot of female admirers. Is that true?
I had a woman tell me one time that she would not be interested in being involved with a fireman because we're always running off to go out and put out somebody else's fire. That's what she told me. We're always running off and not good.
Well, the calendars are very popular with the ladies.
Yeah.
And the car washes that I know in Dearborn Heights, they used to do a car wash every year to help raise money, for the fire department. And the line was always packed up, and these women's cars, they were clean, so they didn't need to be washed. They were there for the shirtless fire.
Our motto is that a fireman never dies; he just rolls his hose up and goes to a new flame. Hey, you get me started. I got a lot of them.
We're here all night.
Shouldn't have that going on.
You guys will be clicking off, and I'll see you here sitting talking to myself.
No, I'm staying here. I need new material.
Right. Well, we were thinking about different fundraisers. How hard is it to spray like Terry? Like if we did like one of those fireman's hoses, can we just like
hose them down
through the wall? Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good fundraiser.
Hey, I'll do it for the good cause.
Hose Terry.
So you might have to stay far, far away. Now. Go ahead.
I wouldn't want to get hit in the face with a fire hose because for a fire suppression, we're operating 125 psi.
Wow. Well, I never said hit in the face. I mean, I'm going to protect this pretty face. This is my moneymaker.
Yeah.
So
would wash all the mayflies off of you.
Right. So now, what made you want to become, get involved with the fire department and, and do that?
Okay. My father was a chartered member from 1948. He was a resident of the township. He was a farmer. He was self-employed, and he actually helped with the first organized group of guys that signed up to be firefighters. Nice. I grew up around the fire station.
Right.
And I graduated from Monroe High School in 1979 in June, and in July I turned 19 and I joined with Monroe Township, and I was a firefighter for almost 9 years when the fire inspector position was created and became available, and I was fortunate enough to be able to secure that position. And now our third generation, my son, is about 5 years in right now. He's a firefighter, and he's a Monroe County 911 dispatcher as well.
Nice.
He worked ambulance for almost 5 years before going on to be a dispatcher. But so he grew up around the fire station.
Nice.
You know? I think just having that inner sense of being that caretaker, being that provider, being that in time of need, I like to be the go-to guy, even when it's not the fire station. I'm a handyman, a lot of tools. I like being that go-to guy. I like to be involved. I like to help where I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how it's been all along. I think I learned that from my parents, and here we are 3 generations in.
Right. And I was always, I've been blessed never to be involved in like a house fire or anything like that, or be close to a house fire, and the first fire, because you really don't think that it's as intense as fires are. You always think of like a bonfire, and then
Right.
the boat next to
recreational, but fires in a structure that are unleashed, they're non-discriminative.
Right.
They will go through you. They will burn you. They will. A fire's main survival is oxygen.
Right.
The more oxygen a fire can get, the bigger, the faster it can grow, and it's going to grow uncontrollably until it's stopped. And that's why we work with those kind of pressures and those kind of gallons per minute. And
right. And until the boat next to mine caught fire, and it was a 41-foot double cabin, and fiberglass burning, it's just awful stench. I mean, anytime anything's burning,
fiberglass is difficult to extinguish.
Yeah, and I watched the men and women put it out, and it was just, and it was a 41-foot boat, and I was trying to untie mine and just get it back, and it caused a lot of damage to mine. But no, it was just the raw, and it was so intense, and we're lucky that the tanks didn't blow up because they were half full.
The little boatyard right next to your marina, just east of you there a little bit. Last year. It was a 4th of July celebration, and we believe the fire originated from fireworks being deployed, landed on the cover of a boat, and it caught on fire, and it burnt the boat next to it on both sides, and it burnt the rope off, and it floated across that channel.
Yeah.
And burned 2 more boats.
Yeah. That was that last year or this year?
That was probably about 15 years ago.
Oh, 15. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But we had quite a few boats. You may be thinking of the one where they were shrink wrapping the boats.
Oh, no.
Down by Hoffman. They were shrink wrapping boats, and we ended up burning, I think it was 3 or 4 very large watercraft.
Yeah, there was one last year. Yeah, there was one last year. It was just a 21-footer.
That little fishing boat.
Yeah, and I slept through that. I was on my boat actually sleeping.
We did have one this spring. It was at the docks.
And then
they started up the boat and it burst into flames, and there were some injuries from that.
Yeah. And then there was another one. Oh, go ahead.
Finally, they got the remains out of the channel, out of the Bulls Harbor Channel, and got it cleaned up. Right.
Yeah, it started floating towards other boats, and they're like, "Oh, geez."
So, but you're right. When you say if you're sleeping on your boat, there should be smoke detectors, because you have electricity, you have fuel, all the components, you have combustibles, all the components that are needed to create a fire.
Right.
And if you're down in the gully and you're sleeping,
right. And what are some of the things you can do around your house to prevent a fire? You know, Gary likes to stack his old newspapers up next to the furnace. So
yeah, nice. He wants a visit, don't you? You want us to visit your house.
he's looking for Mr. July to come visit him on the calendar.
Okay.
We're not
the first thing I would say is housekeeping.
Mhm.
Housekeeping to keep the clutter, keep your home picked up more neatly than not, and then look, what do you have as far as ignition sources in your home? You have your stove, a water heater, furnace, a fireplace. If an individual smokes, a lot of people don't realize that when you have a cigarette sitting in an ashtray, sitting idle, it's burning at 550 degrees.
Yeah.
If you ever gotten touched by the tip of a cigarette, it hurts because it's very hot. Well, paper will ignite at 360 degrees is what paper will ignite at.
Yeah.
If you have combustibles all over and if the house is a mess,
correct,
you're going to have lots of fuel.
Correct.
Gary, I interrupted you, Gary.
No, I said I got to be the bearer of bad news. We got about 5 minutes left, so I just wanted to thank you for coming on. And if you want to help Terry and I raise some money to get the firefighters and the households around Monroe some smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, visit the link on the bottom. It's paypal.me/Terry and Gary, and you can donate all the money. 100% of it that gets raised is going to go straight to the fire department for fire detectors, smoke detectors, and such. And I wanted to, Terry, I know we want to talk about our wrestling event coming up here real shortly. So why don't you get into that real quick and talk about what we got coming up here on October 15th?
Yes, October 15th, Bash at the Boatyard 1. There's going to be a battle royal, and there will be a Boatyard Bash tag team match, DBA and myself versus DTA. So that'll be an intense brawl. Anything goes. So yeah, it'll be, maybe someone will end up in the drink, you know.
With DBA there, we might want to have Calvin with us.
Right. DBA is known for his flaming elbows, so, but it definitely is outside. Yeah. So tickets are only limited to 100 people. We ask you to wear a mask. We will have masks for sale if you don't have one. We will have hand sanitizer too for sale if you forget yours. The FOP will be selling bottled waters and concessions. They'll be wearing gloves and masks and all that stuff just to help raise money for the FOP. If you want to donate to that, you can.
So tickets are almost gone. So get on there and buy those tickets now.
Yeah. Tickets, and you can find tickets at purplepass.com/IWR bash.
Yep.
See, I remember that. Calvin, look at that. Hey, hopefully we'll see you there, Calvin. So
I'll wear my fireman suit and get in the ring.
Right. Yeah, hey, we have another spot left in the battle royal. We got Dave Big Daddy Powell. He'll be
put my gear on and walk into a burning house before I get in that ring and get my tail whipped. You know.
But hey, real quick before we leave, what is your favorite movie?
What is my favorite movie?
Yeah. Backdraft?
Backdraft to me was very unrealistic.
Really? I think in my mind, you guys are all sitting around there watching, you know,
I like Ladder 49.
Do you? Okay.
Ladder 49. And then what was that other one? Was it Dave and Chuck? They were New York firefighters and they had to get married because of insurance or something. That had a lot of good comedy in it.
Right.
You were going to ask him a John Stamos question. I'm so happy you refrained and asked him a movie question.
Hey, I love John Stamos, Calvin. Ever since I was a kid, man, he was one of my favorite actors. Him, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And of course, you know, Emergency, Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto.
Okay.
If you ever watched any of the old reruns or episodes of Emergency, that was 6 seasons of firefighter EMS bliss for those hosers like me. You know.
Well, thank you. And is there anywhere they can go to check out some more information on house fires and prevention and all that stuff?
The internet is just loaded with information.
Okay.
But,
So just Google.
I have handout materials available. I do fire extinguisher classes for groups businesses if they want to learn how to use a fire extinguisher.
Right.
That's free of charge. We don't charge anything for that type of training. And
Nice.
some businesses require it of their staff.
Yeah.
And I go to Bay Corrugated, I go to Tenneco, I go to the youth center. So I have regular businesses that reoccur every year and want that certification, that training.
Nice.
Before you slide down that pole and get out of here, I need you to tell everybody your fundraiser coming up real quick. So
yeah, again, it's going to be October 1st. It's Joy's Home Cooking. Anything on the menu that day, 20% is going to go towards sponsoring the children's burn camp. It's over near Kalamazoo, Michigan. But it's 1125 West Front Street. October 1st, they're offering turkey dinners with all the trimmings, the dressing, for $9.95.
Terry's ordering right now.
That's what I'm doing right now. And October 1st is a Thursday.
Correct.
Yes.
From 11 to 6. She's going to be serving dinner until 6 o'clock.
All right. Well,
consider Gary and I there.
Yummy.
Sure.
All right,
Thank
guys,
you,
it's been a pleasure.
I appreciate
Thank you, Calvin. We really appreciate
Stay
it.
healthy.
Yes.
No playing with matches.
I won't.
No playing with matches or lighters. They're not toys, Terry.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Calvin.
Fingers.
Thanks.
Thank you, Calvin.
All right, guys. Take
Dave,
care.
back behind the scenes. Thank you. And we'll see you again next week on Terry and Gary's Low Expectations podcast. Maybe follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all of them. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Sorry I caused so much trouble logging in. That's
You're fine. You're fine. You're worth the wait.
That's right.